There's actually three types of space: perm space, spool space, and temp space. Let's just get the first two down because they're the majority of what you need to focus on. Perm space, it's where they keep the permanent tables. Every time you create a table or the DBAs create a table, that takes up perm space. Now, spool space, empty space on disk. And when you run your queries and each AMP's building your report, it just saves that down in that empty space, and that's spool space. Intermediate results is what you might call that. Half perm space, half spool space, that's what I want you to begin to picture right now. You will soon learn that you'll probably have about 70% of the disk as perm space and about 30% as spool space, but those numbers vary. Don't worry about that. I want you to just see clearly how perm space works. When I create a table header is created on every AMP, and when we load that, blocks are opened and the data is loaded on these AMPs. That is all done in perm space. As you can see here, I've got tables on one AMP and tables on another AMP. Would there ever be an AMP that has more tables than the person next to them? Never. They all have the exact same tables. They just hold different rows. When a user runs a query, the data blocks from the AMPs go into memory. They begin to process that data, and if they run out of room in memory, they write it down to spool back on disk, and they can continue to write those blocks down in the spool area. And then when the query is done, they return the results to the user and they wipe that spool clean. You just ran the query, select everything from the sales table. The parsing engine checked your syntax. It checked the security to see if you had the access rights, and then it said, I'll come up with a plan. This is going to be a full table scan. AMPs, this is your parsing engine. I'm passing this message over the BINAT. I said move it. I want you to go out and I want you to bring the blocks of the sales table into FSG cache. And every AMP goes out, grabs their sales table block, puts it into their FSG cache. File system generating cache. That's their memory. And then they begin to process, and they got the product ID. They got the daily sales column. They got the sale date, and they build that report. If there's not enough room in memory or FSG cache, they write it back down to the disk in the spool area. I like to think of spool as anything going on in memory or on the disk, and that's going to take up your space. If you run out of spool space, you're going to have to be aborted there, but if you don't, it just keeps building. And then when each AMP reports back over the BINAT, hey, I'm done, and they're all done with their tasks, they bring it back up the BINAT to the parsing engine, who gathers up that report and delivers it to the user.
This lesson is brought to you by Coffing Data Warehousing. Serving the data warehousing needs of the world for 20 years. Check out coffingdw.com for more information.